Okay, I'm back. My apologies. Now we're everywhere that we need to be. So if you're waiting on this, I'm going to kick this back off. I'm going to start over. Give you guys a little minute to get in here, see if we can see some faces coming into the room, and then we're going to get rolling. And today we're talking about eating for wellness, because to this week I've been asking you guys a couple of questions, and one was like, okay, what's more important, what you eat, when you eat, or how you eat? And I think the day before that, I asked you, when do you tend to have your heaviest meal? Because I work with a lot of people, and this is one of the questions that I asked them to find out just how hard they are having digestive issues and why they may have built up some type of gut dysbiosis over the years as well. And a lot of it has to do succinctly with what they eat, how they eat, and when they eat it. And all three of those factors need to come into play. And so today we're going to walk through that. I'm going to take you through this. So if you don't know about this, grab a pen, grab a paper, sit down, be ready to take some notes. I had to restream this from the original link because I messed up, my bad, but I'm going to come here and get you guys right tonight. So if you I'll be posting this up again once it's done, so don't worry about the recording. It will end up on my page somewhere. I'll make a post about it this weekend so you guys can get to it. So my bust, I did not do the right thing when I clicked into the original link. Okay, so we're here and let's roll. So the first thing that we want to talk about between what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat, right, is I want to talk about how to eat first. Okay, so let's go ahead and dig into that. And listen, there's not going to be any food bashing on this. Okay, so if you think I'm a food basher, I'm not a food basher. The only thing that I bash is non-food related things. Okay, so if you love lots of processed foods, it's not going to be on the list of things we're going to talk about, because I don't like waste my time talking about man-made stuff that doesn't work for human beings. Okay, we need to eat whole food from earth whenever we have the opportunity to do so. So understanding the digestive system is so critical for us as adults, especially for my clients, because I tend to work with people who are over 40. Okay, 40 all the way to my most senior client right now is 76 years old, thriving, doing very, very well. And some of these basic principles are things that I teach them, whether they're one-on-one or they're working in my group program in the foundational wellness systems community. So here's what we're going to get to tonight. So how you eat is so important, because this really gets into the chemistry of how your digestive systems work, right? And so I'll start off with a classic American meal: steak and potatoes, right? You can find this everywhere in almost every restaurant, or a quote unquote American restaurant, and even abroad throughout the world. And this is literally one of the hardest, most difficult meals for anybody's stomach and digestive system to deal with any level of magnitude. And it's simply because of the chemistry of what we're talking about here. We're talking about animal protein, which is the hardest the food source for a human being to work with. It's arguable if we can even break it down very well. Therefore, you have to have very strong digestive power, and your acidity level in your stomach needs to be of a very low magnitude. That needs to be very acidic. So you need to be around 1.5, and our acidity levels are typically between 1.5 to 3.5 or 4, depending on what research you're looking at. Okay, but most of us by the age of 40, we have lost that digestive fire. It is gone. And our pH in that stomach is typically alkaline, a little more alkaline than it should be. And therefore, we're open to pathogens because we can't kill them off. Therefore, bacteria tends to overgrow there. One in particular is H. pylori that takes up residence there. And because of this, we get things like GERD, heartburn, acid reflux. Okay. But when we get that steak down there with that baked potato with the cheese on it, and the scallions and the bacon, right? We got all that grease and sugars hitting the stomach at the same time. And guess what? You're just not meant to do that. And it doesn't work very well, because when these things get into the stomach, now we have a thing about timing. Okay. And once you start getting into the timing conundrum with food, you're in a troubled space. And yeah, you can take all the betaine HCl you want. That's still not going to overcome the dissension between the elements of heavy fat, protein, and starch. So that food is going to basically set up a putrefaction in the body, right? And so you have to learn how to properly combine your foods. Otherwise, you're going to have all types of issues for the rest of your life when you continue to eat this way, right? So timing of your food and understanding how long some things stay in your stomach is really important to understand, because we're about to go into barbecue season soon. It's warming up here in the Carolinas, right? And we're ready to get our smokers out and get our grills out, right? Everybody's about to get out and start fishing and doing all the things. And so check it out. You ever been to a barbecue and you had all the pork ribs and the hamburgers, right? And the fries, and then you decided that you're going to have some watermelon for dessert. Okay. And this is where things go horribly wrong for most people, because that watermelon is the fastest moving food for humans. It moves through the body at like light speed. And so when you eat fruit, fruit is out of your stomach anywhere from 20 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on how heavy in fat that fruit may be. But when you're talking about watermelon, we're talking about 20 to 30 minutes. Like it's got to move through. So what happens when you eat meat, right? So when I take that meat in, that's going to be in my stomach for 4 to 5 hours. For some people that have really slow digestive prowess, it could be up to 6 hours still in the stomach. So you went into this barbecue and you're eating all the things, and guess what? By the time you get to that watermelon, that thing probably hasn't left your gut if you've only been there for 2 to 3 hours. And now you're putting that watermelon right on top of all that fat and all that starch. Okay. And you are now going to be in a conundrum. And that conundrum is just that is going to start to ferment in the digestive tract all the way through, because the watermelon is going to start to ferment. And this is going to cause dissension in the small intestine. It might even give you problems while it's still in your stomach. Okay. So the first thing that you got to understand is how to put your foods together. You can Google food combining any day of the week. Food combining. And this should not be a mystery to people, but guess what? A lot of people don't want to eat right. I get it, because you grew up eating the way you eat, and it doesn't make it right for you. Okay. So if you're struggling with weight loss, you're struggling with nutrient absorption, you're losing weight and you can't understand why you keep losing weight and you can't hold on to weight, you got malabsorption issues, and it stems from doing things like this with your food for many, many years, right? Now, outside the fact that you eat a lot of cooked food and you've lost the digestive prowess of your enzymes to help you break down those foods because you don't eat enough raw food in your diet. All right. Now, that's another story for another time. So, very straightforward. Meats, you need to eat meats alone or with vegetables, right? Starches, you need to eat starches alone or with vegetables. Fruits need to be eaten alone. Stop putting fruits in your yogurt. Okay. I know y'all love to do that stuff. And we try to sprinkle fruits on all these different dishes. Like, yeah, you could put it in there. You're just not going to get any value from it. All right. And melons absolutely don't need to be with nothing else, because they're such fast movers. These things smoke through the digestive system, right? It's just so much water in them that they will move very quickly. You're literally eating juice, right? So you're eating all them big pieces of watermelon. It's basically just fruit juice that's going to fly right through your system. And whatever's in front of it, you might end up with loose stool, cramps, all types of uncomfortable things. And over time, as you continue to do this, you'll develop bigger issues in the gut, bacterial imbalances, inflammation issues. So where your SIBO, your SIFO, and all of that stuff, because the yeast from the fermentation is going to start building up in your gut. That's going to throw the candida off in your gut. And now you're dealing with yeast infections and UTIs and skin problems and dandruff and eczema and things of that nature, and toe fungus, right? It started here, right here. Started here and in the gut. All right. So you got to get in alignment with this, right? So again, I'm going to hit that one more time and then we're going to move on. Meats alone or with vegetables. Starches alone or with vegetables. Fruits alone. Now, some people say you can put some lettuce, some watery lettuce with your fruits and you're going to be okay. Yeah, okay. You can try that. See how it works for you. Melons alone. They shouldn't even be mixed with any other fruit. Okay. So there you go. Those are the high ones. Now, if you go look up a food pairing or food combining chart on the internet, you're going to get a lot more detail. Okay. So we're going to talk about some other points about how to eat. And this includes your water, your beverages, right? So we were talking about digestive fire earlier, which means we got to keep that acidic environment acidic in the stomach when we first put the food in. So we don't want to dilute that acid, right? We don't want to dilute that. And what do? We eat such dehydrating food, and you go grab the fried chicken and a biscuit with beans and rice. There's no water left in any of that food. So you start shoving all this dry food in your face. So of course you're trying to grab a juice, you're trying to grab a soda, more sugar, carbonation, all this stuff is making the gut dissension worse. So we're just making matters harder on ourselves. So you need to prepare your stomach for eating. You need to be drinking water at least about a half an hour to 20 minutes prior to eating. While you are eating, you should not be drinking anything. Okay? Nothing, nada, zilch. Don't drink anything. Just look out in nature. Do you see any animals drinking while they're eating? And not unless they're a turtle, because turtles have to take their food in the water to eat. But I'm pretty sure they probably have a valve or something there that cuts off the water flow while they're bringing in the food. But we're also not turtles. Okay? So you got to think like this. You got to work with your body and stop working against it. Okay? Simplify what you're eating. One protein source per meal, right? We love to be like, I want steak and shrimp and chicken. You get a fajita and you get all the meats. Put all the animals you can on one fajita. Like you got to have all the animals on that joint. So be careful. Simplify your food. Simplify how many ingredients you're putting into your body at the same time. Still on how to eat. Eating is supposed to be a parasympathetic process. That means this is when we're supposed to be calm. Now take a step back and look at the drive-through lifestyle that most Americans live. And we are driving through in traffic because traffic's stressful, right? And you're getting in the line at Chick-fil-A and you're stressed out and the kids are tripping in the back and they're yapping and doing all the things, okay? Then the person ain't getting your order right. And now you're getting frustrated and anguish. And then someone calls you on the phone and they've got bad news and you're trying to handle that. And you're doing 4 or 5 things at the same time and still trying to get through this drive-through. And you're not in a good spot. You're not calm. You're anxious. You're in a sympathetic dominant state. You're in high vigilance. You are alert and you are very on point in terms of being able to respond and react and move and be quick at it at the same time. Your body doesn't want nothing to do with food when you're in that state. Your body does not want to break down or digest anything when it's in a state of fight or flight. This is not the time to be eating. You need to be in a place of peace and calm and giving yourself an opportunity to respect yourself enough to slow down, breathe, settle a little bit, bless your food so that you can put some good energy into it because you don't know who touched it before you got it, right? And all the negative energy that went into that food that you're about to take in, okay? So be cool with it, right? Calm yourself. Get into that parasympathetic state where you can feast and be okay, and your juices and your enzymes will flow appropriately. All right. You're not digesting things for much at all when you're stressed out because your body's putting all your blood and resources into your extremities and into your eyes and into your ears, putting all the energy out there so you can react and be quick because you're in fight or flight mode. Right. So it's why you should never have arguments while you're eating. You should not be watching violent things while you eat and listening to violent music while you eat because your body is still reacting to sympathetic dominant fight or flight state. Calm yourself, get some peace in your life. Sit down and make time to chew your food and breathe and appreciate and take your time. Go slow. You need to eat slow. Okay? I know your parents have been telling you and everybody's been telling you for years, you need to stop and chew your food, right? I ain't got time. You need time because what you're doing is creating more stress on your system and you're not going to assimilate those nutrients. They're not going to break down for you. Okay? That meal that you're eating in a stress condition is going to be a net loss, meaning that it's going to require you more energy to try to deal with it than it's going to give you, right? And if we're talking about Chick-fil-A and fast food, that's already going to be it's already going to steal from you because you can't really work with that stuff. It's so inflammatory and mucus forming in your body that it's going to cost you to eat that. Okay, it's going to cost you in money, going to cost you in frustration, going to cost you in digestive fire, and it's going to cost you in enzymes because it's overly cooked and fried and bad oils and all the things. Okay, sit down while you eat. You need to be seated. Okay, we don't be walking around eating and leaning on counters eating. You're not supposed to eat that way. We're designed to sit down to eat. Okay, make sure you rest before your meal whenever you can to calm your nervous system down, right? Stop eating while you're on the road and you're driving because you are stressed. Okay? So, one more time, don't drink with your meals. Calm yourself down. Get out of that stress disposition. Okay? Chew your food well. Go slow, right? This is how we are meant to eat, guys. This is just old school, holistic, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine stuff. This is old, okay? We have been trained to just run and be stressed and to grab everything on the run and on the go and not make time for ourselves. If you can't make time for yourself to eat, then maybe you shouldn't eat. You'd be better off not eating at that point, to be very frank with you, all right? Now, there are some exceptions to some of those food pairing rules, and you're going to see those when you really dig into the details. Some of those have to do with greens, and some of those have to do with grains and legumes and how they work together. I'm going to let you guys find and dig that out on your own because I love to empower people to do their own research. Okay, so go dig into that. You guys are going to find out some things about that. Now, let's talk about what to eat. What to eat automatically matters. Okay, if you choose to eat processed foods, then you're choosing to starve yourself because there is nothing of value in most processed foods at all, except a hard time. So you're going to get inflammatory conditions from eating seed oils, from eating grains that have been sprayed with glyphosate and have all these additives and chemicals in them. I'm not going to go through naming all of those. I think my audience understands we had a problem with this stuff in the bags and the boxes. Okay, you know the deal, right? Let's see. Someone asked a question: what foods cause you inflammation and mucus? Well, we're going to do a course on that. We're going to do a talk on that specifically because there's quite a lot of them. Quite a lot of foods cause mucus. Now, the amount, so you can be mucusless. If you want a mucusless way of eating, then you're going to eat basically all fruit, maybe some lettuce. Okay, so you're going to be a frugivore or a fruitarian. All animal proteins cause mucus and inflammation in the body. It's how you choose to manage this and what kind of lifestyle you really want at the end of the day, right? But we're really designed to eat fruit is the easiest thing and doesn't provide a lot of mucus to the human body at all. Okay, so you're safe with fruits. I know that for sure. You're safe with some wet leafy greens. Okay, most other things they have their variances, especially with how they are prepared. Right, fried food, just it's over. You stop frying food. Right, you need to get to a place where you're lightly cooking your food so that it still has some enzyme power in it to help you digest it and break it down appropriately. I'm not saying you have to go all raw, but you at least need to start making your way and start including a raw diet, start including raw foods in your diet on a frequent basis so you can start rebuilding your microbiome and so that you can support proper digestive function and increasing your enzyme potential in your body again. Okay, for sure. So Someone else said, okay, to eat sauerkraut and other probiotic foods alone or on an empty stomach. Well, you can eat probiotic foods. It's a vegetable, right? So just assume that it's a vegetable and put it in line with what I said earlier, where vegetables fit, because vegetables fit just about everywhere except with fruit, right? So you can put your vegetables with animal proteins. You can put your vegetables with grains and legumes and starches. So you can throw your probiotics right there, and you'll be just fine. Okay. All right. So we covered how. We're talking about what to eat, right? So let's get all the processed stuff off the list. Let's start talking about dairy, because I know somebody's going to ask about dairy. Dairy is very inflammatory. Doesn't matter if it's raw or not. Okay. It's just going to be more high available nutrient wise if you are taking it in raw form. And it's going to provide some level of probiotics to your gut that might make you feel a little better as well if you have a probiotic issue. But most people don't really have probiotic issues. They have enzyme problems. They have enzyme deficiency because they've been eating so much cooked food and foods combined inappropriately that it's just kind of drained them out. They haven't eaten raw enough, long enough. And because we're so far away from our most natural way of eating, that we cause dissension and problems and inflammation within the gut. Okay. What else about eating? We talked about what to eat. So eat whole foods. Okay. Eat your starches if you want starch. I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm very specific with people when I work with them one-on-one and let them learn how to make decisions for themselves. Okay. You're grown. You just need to be taught how to do it right and what to expect from it and what the science really says about it. So starches, that's your legumes, grains, your tubers, fruits. Okay. Your fruits, your vegetables. And if you're eating animals, your animals. All right. That's whole food. And you're trying to get that whole food in its most natural state possible with the least amount of altercation as possible. Okay. When you're doing that and you're not putting a bunch of oils on the food, you're not stressing the food out in hot and lots of high heat and breaking down and causing carcinogen reactions and killing off enzymes, you're going to have a much better gut at the end of the day. And you're going to have a much better life because you're going to be able to assimilate the nutrients much easier. Most of us are eating great food, but because we're not preparing it appropriately and pairing it appropriately, it's not giving us much value. So you see people trying to eat a ton of protein, but all your protein is cooked and scarred and burned. So therefore, probably not going to be so great for you, right? It's just probably not working out. And so you're probably more inflamed. And a lot of people that like to go carnivore or they're paleo and they have a heavy meat diet, they still end up with lots of kidney issues and inflammation problems. And they've got these things swelling up under their eyes. And they've got gut dissension issues as well because carnivores in the wild eat fruits and greens because they have enzymes in them to help them digest the meat. And then they fast for 3 to 4 days before they have another meal. So we are not carnivores in that sense at all. Okay. We're not. We can't do it unless you're eating exactly like them. And carnivorism is not meat only. It isn't. Look at any major carnivore in the wild. That's not what they're eating all. They're eating other things. They're eating some plants too. Take a look at a lion or any big cat. Any big cat. Take a look at your pet cat. Your pet cat will be outside eating grass. And if there's any berries or stuff around that it can get to, it will likely see, you might catch them eating them too. I catch my cat eating those things because I keep a pretty wild cat around my home. Okay. All right. So now let's move on to when to eat. We're probably going to spend the most time here. Okay. Because we've got people doing all types of intermittent fasting and trying to get these advantages. And like most of us are eating a particular way just to drive weight down or maybe to improve insulin resistance, which is still part of driving weight down. Or we're trying to increase our human growth hormone factors, right? And improve our testosterone and things of that nature, balance our hormones more effectively. And this is getting people in a lot of trouble because we're really eating against ourselves because the average person that starts intermittent fasting starts giving up breakfast like completely. Okay. And I'm going to give you guys a little story. So when I first started my wellness journey, when I was over 300 pounds 13 years ago, I wanted to get into fasting so bad because it just looked like a quick win. Okay. And I had all types of hormone issues, gut problems, cardiovascular problems. I was a mess. I was a pretty big wreck. I had dark circles on my eyes, skin patches, and flaking eczema and stuff. My liver was not happy because I was living a pretty poor lifestyle. I was smoking cigars pretty regularly, dipping tobacco, drinking all the alcohol, eating whatever I wanted for the most part. And so I paid the price for that. Right. I almost checked out of here. So when I started putting myself back together, of course, I'm like most anyone else in this world. You want fast results, don't we? We're Americans. You want it yesterday or the day before yesterday, if you could have it. But that's not sustainable. And then the older that we get, the more we realize it ain't going to happen that way. You got to be consistent. It's going to take time. You've got to put in the work, bottom line. So when I tried to fast that first year of my journey, it was a complete wreck of an experience. And maybe this is happening to some of you out there because you're working against your own nature. So you're trying to starve yourself from 6 o'clock in the morning until noon, 1, 2, 3, or 4 o'clock. And you're just starting like to get your act together. And you're 300 pounds. Let's say you're 150 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight, which means you are morbidly obese, right? Deadly obese at that point. And you're expecting yourself to be okay. You're expecting your body to deal with this and your hormones to be okay with this, right? So check this out. Someone said, is there a list for inflammatory mucus foods? Go read The Mucusless Diet by Arnold Eckhart, The Mucusless Diet, and you'll find everything that you need in that book. Okay, there's your tip of the evening. You'll get a pretty exhaustive list of foods, and it's going to blow your mind. And it'll put you on a path of greatness if you roll with it. I promise you that. It'll put you on a path of greatness. It will simplify your life, and it will simplify your wellness and make it much better. So when I started fasting, I can't remember the guy's full name. Mark Grelin, I can't remember his last name, some German guy I was following back then. And he was like, do this fasting, fast until all your fat is off, and then start hitting the weights and build up all this muscle and all this cool stuff. And it sounded cool because this guy was also eating whole birthday cakes and he just looked ripped. So, I was like, wow, this guy's getting away with murder, literally. So who wouldn't want to be able to eat a whole birthday cake and you're like swole and just ripped? So this guy must have something right. So yeah, I could white knuckle that 16-hour fast to 17 or maybe 18-hour fast. I could white knuckle it, but man, it was starting to create an eating disorder, right? And so you guys that are waiting to the end of the day every time you eat, so you're doing these long, some of us have even graduated to like 20 hours, 22-hour fasts, okay? And then you want to eat the earth. And that's how I was. I would get up to that, my window would open up, and that first window was when I was doing it was an 8-hour window, and I ate for 8 hours straight until my window was over. I was just pounding chow, man. I'm like, let's get it in, let's go. I was insatiable because I was not regulating myself appropriately. And most people that try to do these kind of fasts are having the same issue and wondering why, oh, fasting isn't for me. That's not true. Fasting is for everyone because fasting is your closest nature to being a human. What we're not supposed to be doing is eating all day long, okay? Because if that was working so great, we wouldn't be in the disposition that we're in. You hear me? We wouldn't be so sick and so busted if that was the problem. It's not just the fact that the food that we're eating or frankenfood or fake food that we're trying to put in our body is throwing us off and giving us all this high estrogen in the body. It's just simple fact. In our nature as humans, we were never designed to be eating that kind of food all day long. There's really only about one kind of food you can really put in your body all day long that'll keep you out of trouble, and that's fruit because it moves through the system so swiftly, okay? But waiting until you get to the end of the day to have a big gregarious meal and then gorging yourself with a bunch of food, especially if you're OMAD, this is not helping you. It's not helping you. You might think it's helped me get to my goals, but I'm working with these people who have been doing these things for a long time. And I've vetted all this stuff personally myself on multiple occasions to test out all the different theories about fasting for a very long time. I've done all the types of fasts and I've been doing them for over 10 years. So I really understand the mechanics and the hormones and the digestive breakdown and the things that your body's not good at certain times of the day, simply because you're not following what we call the circadian rhythm, which means your body is not in tune with the day, with the sun, and you're doing things absolutely against it. And when you're doing things against it, you're going to pay the price for going against the grain because you're still a human being at the end of the day. And then we have to get real about that. Okay. So when to eat, I'm going to read this guys to you for a second, just to get through this. The circadian system prepares the body to be more efficient at digesting, absorbing, and metabolizing food earlier in the day, because this is what's known as our active phase. Think about that. What's happening at the end of the day? You want to go lay down. You're tired. You've been working and busting your hump all day long. For instance, insulin sensitivity, which is needed to obviously regulate your blood sugar, and most of us nowadays have insulin resistance, is greater in the morning. We wake up with sugar. We get an injection of cortisol and glycogen into the bloodstream to literally wake us up in the morning. So larger meals are processed better when they're eating in the first half of the day. Now, I'm going to caveat that right here, because if you're eating breakfast, okay, and you're deciding to start your day with biscuits and ham, bacon, potatoes, pancakes, and syrup, and all this heavy stuff first thing in the morning, let me just tell you the truth here. You're not doing yourself any favors, because you're also interrupting detoxification processes that have been going on all night long. This is why you should be eating light in the morning, because the sun is not at its highest yet. The sun is rising, right? So as the sun is rising, your intake can rise with it. And then at the peak of the day at noon, when the sun is at its highest, is when you should be having your largest meal of the day. And as the sun starts going down, your last meal of the day, we should be eating at least 2 to 3 hours prior to you resting, because we talked about that gut motility thing earlier, right? Remember I told you, how long is that food sitting in your stomach? So if you're eating all the meats and stuff at the end of the day and you're having a whole steak and you're still combining it with a potato, that stuff is going to be sitting on you when you go lay down. It's going to be still sitting in your stomach when you're supposed to be going naturally into that detoxification phase, right? Yeah, your nutritionist is wrong. Yeah, that's a good thing that's not your nutritionist. Yeah, any nutritionist who tells you fruit is bad, fire them. I'm just going to be very frank with you. Fruit is not bad. You have to find the right fruits that work for you. So if you have a diabetic condition, it's not that fruit's bad for you. You got to find the fruits that work better for you, because diabetes is way more than about blood sugar spikes. It's about how long that blood sugar stays spiked. Okay? That's a whole other set of chemistry that we need to talk about. But yeah, I'm glad you fired your nutritionist, because it's just backwards. So what's also happening at night, melatonin releases at night. And because melatonin releases at night, it reduces insulin release. This means the body is not able to process glucose properly when you eat late at night or very early in the morning. So when you have a very early morning and you're headed out to Starbucks to get a dessert to drink, and it's loaded full of sugar at 6:30 a.m. and all the sprinkles and the caramel and whatnot, your body doesn't want this and it cannot process it well. You're going to store that stuff as fat. Yeah, that's what's going down. And that's what's happening at night too. You're eating too late. Your digestive fire is the best at the first half of the day. So yes, lunch should be your biggest meal. For some people, if you're doing OMAD, that should be your only meal, if that's how you're going to roll. Okay. And if you're doing intermittent fasting and you've got a certain window of time, then probably your meals need to stop around noon. Okay. so that you have a longer gap between noon and the next morning. That's where you pump in that 16, 18 hours of fasting. But I know you don't want to do that, right? Because I got to go home, I got to eat with the family, and blah, 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 blah. Then maybe you need to take an alternative route. And maybe you should do intermittent fasting unless you can do it right. And the best way to really do it is to stop eating early in the day, not eat late and then just wait for that clock to turn on you. Because when you eat late, what did we just tell you? You're working against your melatonin and the insulin in conflict. You're a human being. You're no different. We all have this. Okay. We have to deal with reality here, right? So we can't process early in the morning because the melatonin is high still early in the morning. So you got people that got them early shifts and they're getting out of bed at 3:30, 4 o'clock. I'm an early riser, right? I'm up between 3:30, 4 o'clock every day. I live that 4 a.m. life flow. That's how I roll. But I ain't eating nothing. Oh, no. I'm not eating nothing until we get somewhere past 6:30, 7, 8-ish. Okay. I might even wait until like 9 or 10 to start eating for me on most days. And it's going to be light as possible. I'm going to start with maybe some cucumber juice or something. Maybe I'll have some fruits and I'm going to be fine. But I'm also metabolically flexible because I've been fasting appropriately for a very long time. So I'm already there. You may not be there yet. Okay. Here's another thing. Human studies in young adults found that eating close to when levels of sleep hormone melatonin start to rise, i.e. when you're close to bedtime, is associated with having more body fat. So if you're worrying why, well, I'm fasting, I'm doing this intermittent fasting, I'm just not losing the fat fast enough, it's because you are working against yourself. And if you were already fat and overweight, your melatonin probably been broke, okay? Because if insulin is off, it's likely that many other of your hormonal factors are going to be off as well. They have to play together. Insulin, cortisol, melatonin. Listen, all these neurotransmitters, they have to play well together. They signal to each other through various parts of the day. They're in harmony. They're not working in isolation. Okay? In a randomized weight loss study, women with obesity who ate earlier in the day lost more weight. That means they ate earlier in the day and they stopped eating earlier in the day. Okay? A small study in adults found that late night eating increases blood sugar levels after the meal. Listen up, pre-diabetics and diabetics. Type 1, type 2, doesn't matter. Okay? A small study in adults found that late night eating increases blood sugar levels after the meal and the following day. And the following day, it's just hanging out. That blood is just hanging, that sugar is just hanging out in the blood overnight because it's not supposed to be there. We don't have the right hormonal factoring available. The insulin's not firing strong enough to handle it. So yes, you're going to gain more weight. One of the fastest ways to start dropping weight is to simply stop eating before three hours before you rest. You will have way more success than that, than doing a broken intermittent fast. Okay? Observational studies in people have also found that late night eating is associated with obesity and a greater risk of cardiometabolic health conditions, heart attacks, stuff like that. So yeah, the late night eating isn't working. And I haven't even said anything about changing your diet, right? Just eat the pizza and the burgers earlier and stop. That can be a very good step for you, okay? That's how you can make it work, right? The longer that you eat in the day, it's just going to make things worse for you. So, somewhere around 5 or 6 o'clock, guys, because you really should be in bed by 9 or 10 so that you catch the circadian rhythm of repair in your body. And we'll hold that for another time. But for tonight, this is what I wanted to cover. I think you guys could take a few of these tips and run with them and get some dramatic success. Okay. For those people that signed up, I have your emails, and I know that original link didn't work. I will still email this to you. I'll just have to do it manually over the weekend. I'll get that to you. We'll probably get it by Sunday because tomorrow I have a pretty big day. I've got some pretty amazing news that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. probably Sunday, because tomorrow I'm going to be having a blast. Something very special is going on in my life. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in tonight. And I have a user on here who says, I fast for at least 16 hours. I've been breaking my fast with fresh celery juice. Yes. Hydrating fruits. Yes. Yes. I don't eat until 12. Yes. Been doing this for a year and I'm down over 32 pounds. And I try not to eat after 6 p.m. And I bet she's got way more, that person probably has way more things going on than just dropping weight. Their skin is probably better. Their brain fog is better. Their digestion is better. Their constipation is likely gone. Their fatty liver is going away. Good on you. Keep driving on. So proud of people that are making these choices and leaning in. This isn't that hard. You just need to know the rules, and then you need to lean into them. Gradually start picking them up and moving into them. All right. And if you need some help, you guys know where I'm at. Reach out. I have an amazing group program. All right. Foundational wellness is all about this kind of stuff. We're really going to teach you how to eat, when to eat, how to service all the organs of your body, how to treat all the systems of your body with the proper nutrients and flow and cycles. Okay. Reach out, holler at me if you need some help. I'll meet with you and we'll talk it through. Other than that, you guys have an amazing weekend. Thanks for showing up on a Friday night to do this with me. I'm Ken Newbill, the Health Transformation Specialist, and I want you to always remember that wellness is within you. Take care and good night.